G'day guys, I'm Andrew Dwight. We've got some really cool new features for you inside of PlusSpec. Well, actually on top of PlusSpec. You guys have been asking us for the last 10 years of we want new features and so on, and we've listened, we've written them down. My daughter Emily and Tyler in the office have a list. I think we had over 1,000 items. Essentially what we've done is we listened to everything you said and we figured out how to make it usable so it isn't a difficult tool to use, and how to make it fantastic so it's a tool that enables you to get your job done more efficiently and be able to organize a project from concept all the way through to completion. Now we got some really good tools, and you'll notice here's the new PlusDesignBuild toolbar, and we have some 2D tools. We've got inside of all these tools. I'm going to quickly run you through how all of they do, but notably you wouldn't have noticed the 2D mode tool before, you wouldn't have noticed the levels and layers tool, and you'll probably also see that we have a scheduling tool there, and we also have a 2D construction documentation export tool for layout, which does auto dimensioning, auto setting up, and so on. You'll also notice we have the See All tool, and I'll explain what all of these do because they have a lot of functionality, but they're very simple to use. So guys, I'm going to show you some really cool models that have been done with PlusDesignBuild, but before I do that, I needed to say thank you. Thank you for supporting us, because essentially without you, we wouldn't actually have a company. Now, as a thank you, we'll be offering some significant discounts for upgrading, and we'll also be enabling you to get priority access over the public. Now guys, if you're anything like me, you can be short on time, and this video is going to go for a little while and there's a lot in it. So to make it a little bit easier, what we did below, you can go through a timestamp and basically click through the things you want to see first, and you can go back and see the things that might be more interest to you when you have more time. Now, just because you're an architect or a designer and you don't want to get involved in a bill of quantities or anything like that, it doesn't mean they don't have value to you as a business. Understanding the cost of a project is priority number one when a customer gets something designed. So we do recommend that you at least check them out, because if you're sending your work out to a quantity surveyor, the information that's inside of your model will help that quantity surveyor get back to you more efficiently as far as time goes, but hopefully at lower cost as well. Alright, without any further ado, what we're going to do is have a look at some of these productivity tools, and I'll just quickly change models here. And the first one is probably a bit intriguing, is the 2D tool. And essentially what it does is it changes the model into a 2D mode. So just like the way I was taught to draw was using pen and ruler on a drawing board, most of us are used to reading plans that way, and that's the reason why that tool has been implemented. I'm going to show you how it actually works in workflow as we go forwards, but I'm going to jump into the levels and layers tool next. And essentially you'll notice in this model that I've actually have levels and layers here, and I've actually typed in my own name according to what I wanted those levels and layers called, because you might call them separate things. And basically I've assigned geometry, and you can assign it as you draw, or you can assign it after, to those levels and layers tools. And you'll see there that essentially I'm turning things on and off according to what it is I'm choosing. So that enables me to work on separate parts of the model. So when you've got a large model, it's very difficult to break inside of that model and just work on the floor in level 3. It's also slow. So basically when you turn things off, it enables SketchUp to work faster, handle less geometry, and enables you to work faster. So it helps you a lot with productivity. But I'm also going to show you some other functions with it. I can add in other levels as well. So you'll notice when I started turning all of those off before that I still had some engineering in there. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to type in engineering, and you can type in whatever you want to do. And I'm going to go save. Don't forget, when you hover over things, that it has information about it, and your tutorials are up top. And all of these things are there to help you work more smoothly and more efficiently. So I've gone save and update, and I'm going to refresh this here. And it's renumbered all of my levels for me. So if I actually wanted to associate that engineering, I can go and turn everything off, and even if I turn my engineering off, you'll notice I haven't associated it with a level just yet. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to select my engineering here. And probably what I need to do is do it like this. And the same with over here, because there's two different models that we've used for pricing. And I'm going to go into my right click menu, and I'm going to assign a level. And I put it on engineering. Right. Now when I go in, I can turn things on and off, right, instantly. That saved you from adding a multitude of scenes across the top, and therefore it makes SketchUp easier to use and PlusSpec easier to use and have a more organized model. One other thing you'll notice, I have a set of plans here with the Levels and Layers tool. I can bring this out here and I can simply go to my Wall tool, open up my Wall tool here. I can assign things to a level. So I'll just move this over here for a second. And you'll notice up here we have active. If I click it, it's going to be inactive. If I click active again and I close the toolbar, it opened up this tiny little toolbar for me, which basically means you've got more screen space to work with. And I actually want to draw at the moment on a particular level. So this is my first floor walls. So I've actually got it selected there, right? So I'm going to quickly just draw a few walls on my first floor layer. Now here's where the 2D tool really starts to come into its own. Right, now I can really quickly work on top of a plan. I'll just draw a couple of walls here. Say here and say here and stop here. Right, if I went back to my 3D mode, here, I can now see there are my walls there. I can still draw in 3D mode here, and I can also change my height. So if I said I want to actually put the next wall on ground floor walls, go over here, and I'll just quickly just draw a wall from here to here. Right, and you'll notice that I have them on two different heights. This is particularly useful when you're drawing on contour maps or you're trying to get things exactly to a height. You can type in the heights, you can change the heights, you can edit anything that you want to do inside of here. You'll also notice if I actually click inside of these particular areas that I have different levels inside of them. So I can actually break levels down into subcategories of levels. These are actually tags inside of that level. So instead of going to my layers menu or tags menu and then trying to figure out what layers are on what levels, this organizes it for you. And this will also come through, which we'll demonstrate further in the future, is how we would utilize this to schedule a project. The other thing you might have noticed as I'm doing this is that everything's opening and closing a lot quicker. We basically put a turbocharger underneath PlusSpec, which is already fast. All right. So now, guys, I'm going to talk about Takeoff. We've done a lot of work in the Takeoff. It's basically a full rebuild from scratch, and a lot of us from feedback that we received from quantity surveyors and from builders and also engineers and everyone else. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up Emily. Emily, can you come up here, please? This is Emily. You've probably received an email from Emily across your time and so on. She's going to help me ensure that I keep on track, because I have been known to babble before in my time. Okay, Emily, where are we going to do? What are we going to show first?
Well, we'll head over to a different model there, so it's just a little, it's nice and clear.
Okay.
Go to the second untitled one.
This one here? Yep.
Yep. So we'll just start off by showing you the new way that the takeoff functions. So actually, what you're actually doing a takeoff on. So you're able to. So
I can right click,
yep,
takeoff selection. So basically, it's only going to do a bill of quantities on what was inside of here and associate price with just this item. And if I right click over here, I can just do a takeoff selection here.
Yep.
If you're going to do, I guess, some sort of variation, so you might change this to a tile roof or a slate roof or something like that, you could actually do a comparison between two items. I think takeoff selection is a really handy thing.
Just for finding individual elements.
Keep you feasible.
Takeoff.
Yep.
But there additionally is an option when you say click the takeoff button on the PlusDesignBuild toolbar.
This one?
Yep.
Yep, okay. So let's go and do a full takeoff. Yep.
It comes up with the option to sort out what you're actually doing a takeoff on. So you see there's the options for what's visible, so anything you can see. You can take off the entire model, so everything that's in your model. And then you additionally have the option to do some advanced framing takeoffs, which we'll get into a little bit after.
Yeah, and if you don't want to see this dialog, you can turn it off because you might not always want to see it
every time.
Yeah, so I'm going to go generate an update report, which has basically done a takeoff on the entire model. Inside of here, you'll notice that we now have these different tabs. So what do you reckon? We start at the top here. Overall price, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. total margin, which would be the amount of percentage we've added on top of the job. Contingency would be, I'm not quite sure about what that's going to cost, so I'm going to add in a figure. For contingency, you may or may not use it in the job, you may or may not charge a client for it, and you've got a global percentage markup, which basically means, how much are you charging on top of the cost of the materials and labour.
Yeah. So this is basically your summary page. So you'll see all the buttons there on the left.
These ones?
These can, yep. They drop down, and it's breaking down every major element of the project. As you can see there with the framing, you've got absolutely everything that's in your model. From there, you can go in and edit it and add.
See more.
Yeah. So this is where all the magic happens. Okay.
So essentially, we have the lumber or timber, depending on what country you're in, and we can show you how to change the names of those things later. You can associate a price with a particular item. You can associate, you can link items to it. So say for instance with your structural timber there, you might want to, link nails. You can basically add new items, add new item here. And you'll notice I've actually created a whole heap inside of here. And some of these are actually some of the beaters, testers things. So, we've got nails and gang plates and screws and anything that you can think of that's associated with a product can be associated. You can type in your own, you can copy and paste out of a spreadsheet. There's so many different things you can link to items. And basically, if I wanted to link this particular item to a particular, either be the linear length or the number of items or how many lengths or the total length of the wall framing, you can do that.
Additionally, there is a different section for associating labour. So that's just
correct. Yep. So obviously someone's got to install this as well. So I can basically expand this, and it could be plumb the walls, prefabrication, or I can add new items simply by going add new, and they're linking to whatever it is. So this one might be, cut plates, right? And basically I can go and type in, I can link that to an item up here. Link item, and I'm going to say I've got 144 lineal meters in this case, and I'm going to save my changes, and essentially I've got cut plates here. I can add in a price and everything like that.
From there you can go on and add a vendor or a subcontractor. So
correct. So if in this case here it might be a frame carpenter.
So you can import all of your vendors, say from your QuickBooks or
that's right. So basically if you're using QuickBooks or Xero or whatever it is, you can basically export all of the vendors out of there and put them directly into PlusSpec, and then you can create a purchase order from all of this information. And that's really handy because you've got a 3D model here on the left, and all of a sudden you're actually associating cost codes, you're associating vendors and everything there, with the result of actually creating a bill of quantities.
And all of those can be imported just straight from your accounting software straight into our software. So
also a bid request too, I don't want to forget that, a bid request. Yes. So a bid request would be if you're getting somebody to quote it. So if you're an architect and you go, I've got no idea what any of this is going to cost you, basically go and put in carpenter or whoever your carpenter is, you can put in their name, business and details, and basically send it off to them, and then they can fill in the prices for you. You can import them back into PlusSpec and then go back to your client and present an educated price instead of a bit of a guess that you've sent off to some carpenter that's looked at half-assed sets of plans.
Anyway, we'll go back to the summary page now, and we'll look at one other kind of variation of that edit seam or page. So to do that, we want to look at the advanced framing. So we didn't do this takeoff as an advanced framing takeoff.
We didn't. We actually only just did this takeoff as just a quick takeoff. So what I could do, and we'll get into that other section later. If I go to framing advanced, now you can't buy a piece of lumber in increments of this much. They usually come in 300 increments or 1 foot increments, is back to the imperial system. And you'll notice here that I have advanced framing. If I go edit see more, inside of here you'll notice that this was the actual length of my studs, common stud. It was 2 meters 335, or 7 foot 7. But you can only buy 8 foot. Sorry, I'm a metric guy. it actually goes through and puts them into order length so you can purchase them. That way, if I associate a vendor with this particular item, I can actually say to my lumber supplier, send me 8 at 2.4 or 8 at 8 for whatever it is, and you can do that. Also, we have named everything inside of the model according to the traditional name between America, Australia, and New Zealand and UK. But you can change them as well. And should we quickly show that now? Or?
Yeah, we can quickly show that now.
Okay, so basically, if you want to change the names of members inside of a frame, you can go down to Set here.
You can also access this from the Takeoff, but
okay,
just down the bottom here.
And I'm going to go to Wall Tags. And you'll notice that we call a common stud, which is number 1 here. It's a common stud, which is basically cut at a common length. Ribbon plate, which is number 2, which is the plate on top of the secondary plate there. All of these items you can change the label, how they turn out in the Takeoff and in the export. You can also change the name of them according to how you want to do it. And it just basically enables you to customize the program to your geolocation or the naming conventions you use according to your company. All right. What about showing model? I think that's pretty good too. Do you think we should get into that a touch?
Yeah, sure thing. You want to go back to...
Okay, so we'll go back here and we'll go to our roof, which I clicked on here before. So I'm going to expand my roof. And because this is a reasonably simple model, it's easy for us to figure out what the cappings are and what the gutters are. But you'll notice that it comes up with a thing called show in model. So all of my cappings are now highlighted or turned everything else off.
Isolated.
My eaves, I isolated the eaves there, fascia, right, gutter.
This comes in handy a lot with your larger projects and cross-checking especially.
Too right. Yep.
Yeah, so that's your show and model. You can even break it down even further with the framing.
That's correct. There's a lot of fun. Finding items inside of a model can be tough, and we're going to get onto a really large model shortly. As you can imagine, this type of information will save you a heap of time. All right, that's just a little bit. What else is next? What have I missed there?
Well, we'll go on to, I guess, look at the preliminary items.
Preliminary items. Okay, that's huge. Preliminary items is one of the biggest improvements we've made, not only to our Takeoff, but also the ability to use non-PlusSpec derived geometry to do a Takeoff. You'll notice here that I don't have anything inside of my Takeoff here, so I'm going to import a template. And basically, this template would be something that you would probably take out of, just find this preliminary items, out of, say, I've imported 375 items there. All of this information is basically what you would put inside of, say, QuickBooks or whatever. So if you're running a business and you might be, putting the line items inside there so you can associate price and invoice it to a client, well, all of those line items can be exported out and you can actually import them via a CSV inside of PlusSpec. And inside of here, you'll notice that these would be typical items that I might use. So, insurance and warranties or preliminary items or
things that might
options.
Not necessarily be represented by geometry. So it's just all included in one.
Yeah, and you can basically search it. So if I searched here, say, grass, if I've got something for grass, okay, it's gone through clear grass from site. So how would that work? So say, for instance, we had a site here. This might be our job site, and we're going to build a house here. Therefore, I'd have to clean all the vegetation in this area. I can read it, right? You can see they've got 247 square meters there, and I can write to that selection and I can basically add in a cost code as well. So it might be site setup here, and I can write to that selection and away I go. I can create new items from here, or I can actually create them in my spreadsheet and import them if I want to.
And this all works along with your Takeoff.
That's right, this will all come out in your Takeoff. So you can see that I might want to lay turf here later. So I can, this is prep. So if I want to read that, and I can write to the selection, I'm going to prep all of that area. And if I actually went back inside and said I want to read this and write to that, I can continue to keep on going, right? The most important thing is to save the items, save all. And if we go back to our Takeoff,
give it a refresh.
We update it. You'll notice I have preliminary items. Inside of my preliminary items, I now have site preparation edit, see more, clear the grass from the site, which you saw there before. I can associate a price, it might be $5 a square meter, whatever it is, and all of these items are actually quantified. I'm going to go back here. So your preliminary items associated, really important. There's so much more to that, guys. Watch the tutorial inside of every single tool, because it'll take you to new tutorials and learn new things that you wouldn't have understood before. One other thing on preliminary items is it doesn't have to just be items that are associated with the job. It could be the time to prepare the job. It could be the time to prepare the quote. It could be a multitude of different items.
I guess the next thing we'll move on to is the bids and purchase orders.
Bids.
Generating reports.
Okay, so let me think how we're going to do that. Bids. So we might want just a quotation request in this particular area. Let's have a look and see if we can do it. So site preparation, you can see what we've got to do. Edit, see more. We have it here. We don't have a vendor. The vendor
can be associated back in the preliminary items.
Correct. Yep. So let's go back to another item that we've already got a vendor inside of. Let's go to our roofing. Do we have a vendor?
And edit, see more.
Yep. Edit, see more. Okay, I do have a roof supplier in here. I can change that. I will go back to roof supply. So, roof installer, roof supplier. You can basically just write in R and it will come up and it will start to filter everything for you. What did I say? Roof supplier.
We can do roof
there we go.
installer,
Roof supplier. Okay, so the supplier is going to supply this amount of iron for us, and I'm going to give them a cost code, which I'm going to put under roofing. You can import all of your own cost codes according to however Xero or QuickBooks works.
Go roof down the bottom.
Okay, roof down here.
And from here we can just go up to the generate reports button up the top right.
Yeah, that's correct. So I go generate reports, and I'm going to go down and find my roof installer here. I'm going to generate that report, and essentially your logo would go here. You can see I can put one in this one here, and everything that was associated with that roof supplier is actually gone in. Even though I only did it for one section, it remembered what I did last time. So basically, instead of having to go back and go, I've got to install roof, but I've also got to have silicon, I've got to have sheets, I've got to have a whole heap of different things, all of these items are already saved for you. And in the tutorials, you'll see how to save those items as recipes, and away you go.
It's all one entry. It's a one entry system with the takeoff, and as are all the other dialogues in PlusDesignBuild.
Yep. You can also have safety comments and notes about it, or there might be, contract variations or anything that's there, or site safety. All of those things can be added inside of the spreadsheet when you import your vendors. What have we got next, Em?
Let's have a look at client estimates next.
Client estimates. Okay, maybe we just even. So with this particular model, it's pretty straightforward. If I wanted to just create a client estimate, I can just click up here, and it's a small model, but the time it would actually take to do that is incredible. So I'm just going to go here, save client estimate. Okay, and it's going to open up a folder for me and open up my client estimate. Here's all the things that was inside of that model. One thing really good about it is you can also see where you have an associated price. So before you actually give this to the client, you might actually go through and update your pricing, or just figure out if you've actually left something out of a job. It's organized it into the site preparation that we did there before, laying turf, and everything that we've just done in front of you is automatically remembered. It saves you from a builder's perspective, or someone who's done an estimate, who's spending my own money and ensuring that I charge the client enough to cover my job. There's so many things I could have forgotten, and preparing this type of documentation and getting it ready to print out is reasonably easy to do. So custom scaling, fit it all on one page, and away we go. Emily's giving me the hurry along because I can bang on. Right, moving on next.
I guess the last thing we can go through is just explaining how we're exporting the takeoffs. So it all comes out into your comma separated values, so you can put it into Excel.
That's right. Look, some of our clients actually use third-party software after they finish with PlusSpec, like
Buildertran, CoConstruct.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what this enables you to do is export all of this into a format you can import into another piece of software that you might use as a CRM or a whole heap of different things. And basically, look through these tutorials here, because all of this is really, really valuable to you, especially as a builder or a quantity surveyor or a design build firm. What else have we got?
That's the major updates to the Takeoff, but there are a lot of little special nuggets in there that you can find as you have a play around with it.
Yeah, set it up once, set it up correctly, and if you need some training, reach out to us, guys, because we've helped a lot of people in the beta get through this. Okay, while I've actually called Emily up here, I'm prompted. Emily, what are we moving on to now? Because there's so much I've got to try and remember in my head here.
Well, we'll head over to scheduling.
Okay, scheduling. So I'm going to have to open up another model there. So essentially in that model it has all the MEP, the ducting, all the framework, and everything's required to actually put that project together. So as you can see, it's opening up now. What we're going to talk to you about was scheduling, and maybe we just have a quick look at I don't know, this model. Em, do you think we should get into that?
We'll just have a quick squeeze at it, but really having the new levels and layers tools and having the scheduling tools makes huge models like these with a lot of detail a lot faster to use, since you can take some of the geometry out at different parts, and it just makes them a lot easier to organize. If you need to make an edit, having the levels and layers tools and having the scheduling tools just makes it really easy to see exactly what's going on. So we'll have a look at the scheduling tool now.
Okay,
so
right.
that's
So
the cycle.
scheduling tools, first time we've opened it, you'll see it just here. And look, I don't understand this project fully, but I can get a rough idea of how things are going to go together. Here's our slab and probably the preliminary stages. You can add more stages in front of this stage. You can call the stages names, you can save them and so on. I'm just going to go through a few that I created. You can add predecessors, start dates, duration, how long the task is going to go for, who you're going to assign it to, how much the cost of the stage is. So by going right click or select all, I can basically go through and go right click, do a bill of quantities on that stage, associate the price with that stage and give it a description.
Yeah, all this can be exported into, say, Microsoft Project or to Gantt chart or whatever scheduling software that you're using.
Yep.
And yeah, this is great for not only communicating with your trades, you can be showing them exactly what's going on at what time, and for your clients as well, they can see what's happening, what time, and at what cost.
You can also see clashes as well. So you can see that duct there is actually hitting a beam. So there's a lot more that comes out of than just associating dates and times with a project. You can actually look at different parts of the project without, again, creating hundreds of scenes across the top. This is, as I said, this model wasn't done by me, so they have created a whole heap of scenes, but at the end of the day, it wasn't necessary if they had to use the 4D scheduling part of this new PlusDesignBuild. Okay, so where to from here, Em?
I guess we'll have a look at the new joist functionality.
Okay, so I'll go over to a blank model here, nothing in it, close, and we'll bring this over here and we'll go to our joists here, which is inside of our flooring tool, and what are we going to go through?
Well, I guess we'll go through what's new with it. So you can see there's a couple of new buttons there that say draw.
Yep.
All of those have new functionality for adding additional parts to your joist.
Yep, so you can add in a location. So say for instance you're doing balcony joist, you can type in the balcony joist and in your takeoff you're going to get through the location of the joist, because it's not unusual to have 5 or 6 different locations to have joists in under decking or balconies or whatever. You can draw a single item. So if you had, say, an L-shaped building, let's just quickly do this here, maybe go make it a smaller size, and we'll go make here, we have an L-shaped building and we need to put some joists in here. We can choose the joist spacing and type. You guys would already be fully aware of this here. We can start it with a double or with a single, which is something new. Yep, and we can just go submit and we'll put our joists in here. Right, it actually has the girders or bearers as we call them in Australia. It started and ended with double joists, as you can see there. However, over here, you'll notice that it sort of went, well, I'm not sure what to do. Well, the advantage of actually having draw single beam or single joist is that you can essentially go through and choose which type of joist you want to put in there. It could be bigger because it's an end joist. It could be the same size as what you've drawn, or it could be something special like an LVL. It might be holding more weight. I can start that joist here and I can head along to here. Down arrow enables me to justify it, and essentially I now have that particular joist that I chose there inside of that project. Okay, you can also add joist. So if I selected this and I wanted to be part of the group, I can select that. I can select this and go right click, joist, add object to joist, and therefore everything is going to move in one go. Kind of handy, right? Other things, what else have we got here? Single beam, you can add hangers in there, so you can say choose hangers. You'll notice you're also going to come across this sometime. Basically, it says that if you haven't used this tool before, would you like to watch a tutorial on it? You can say no. It'll come up twice. I'm going to say no. And basically it's going to open up that dialog. It's going to ask me my joist spacing, it's going to ask me my beam height, my beam thickness, and what type of bracket that I want to use. And if I want to have a symbol there, I'm just going to quickly just choose, I don't know. It's been a while since I've used this myself. Here, and you'll notice that you've also got some help text coming up. I'm just going to do this. You'll notice I actually put that on the wrong side. I'm pretty sure it's control, but you can also go flip along. Right, move it to where you want it to go. It's enabling you to do things if you're cutting out that barrel, or plenty of things that you can do with that. The same thing happens with, what else we got? Takeoff tags. You can set takeoff tags, which basically means that you can put information in there for your takeoff. What else have we got there, Em?
I've got blocking, if you scroll back up there.
Yeah, include blocking here.
You can include it or you can draw it individually like we were.
That's right, yep. So all of that's, check out the tutorials once again, guys. This isn't a tutorial, just showing you some cool functionality that we've added that's going to save you a lot of time. What have we got next, Em?
Well, I guess we can, that's the main, there are the new features for the joist, so
Yep.
we can move on to the beam tool, I guess. Got
Beam
some
tool,
cool
right,
new
okay,
things.
well, okay, you like that. Okay, so cutting and mitering beams has always been a little bit difficult. Let's just get out of this, and we're going to go to our beam tool. And sometimes it's difficult to get beams or whatever it is to work. I'm just going to go submit here, and I'm just going to just do some strange stuff here. I'm going to go on different angles. These might be the beams, and in between the beams you're going to have different types of beams that go from, say, here over to here. Right. And I actually wanted these two beams to line up with here. So I can select this beam, and I can go right click, and I can extend the beams to here. There we go. They lined up nice and neatly there. You can see that that one was outside of the line, but it's a really handy thing to do. You can also miter beams. You can cut beams and split beams. So for instance, I went here, right click, split beams, and I want to split this beam, say here. And I might want to split it here, and I'll split it here, and go enter. Right, now I have several different beams that can be moved individually, and that's kind of handy if you're drawing over top of posts or columns where you've drawn in a really long beam and you just want to make sure you split it in the center of a column.
That's your beams.
That's your beam tool, yep.
I guess next we can move on to posts and piers. Just
okay, yep, that's a nice easy one. Okay, so in our posts and piers, you'll notice that I can, you've always would have noticed that you can change the type of posts that you require, but sometimes you have piers that are actually underground. You can change your sizes, diameters, and everything like that. And I'm sure that everyone was aware that I could actually put it wherever I want to do. And if I actually use my right arrow, I can choose where I want it to draw from. Center of post has been done there, but in this case I have a pile or a pier which is underground. Right, we can go and add them to wherever we want them to be, so they're underneath and they're going to be quantified as piers and piles. That's a reasonably straightforward, simple one, but something that a lot of you guys have asked us for. What else we got there?
I guess we can move on and have a look at the new tools in the wall tool for structure. Looking at buttons and changing heads and footers.
Right. Yep. Okay, so wall tool.
Just some added flexibility here for your framing.
Yeah, and look, I mean, this has been asked by a lot of you too, a bit more how we actually build. At the moment, I'm using a wainscot wall, which is basically a wall that's split half and half. And inside of my wainscot wall, obviously I have the lumber required to build the wall, but also the cladding that sits on the other half of the wainscot wall, which I'll quickly just draw one here so we can have a look at it. The cladding, depending on the way the cladding ran, sometimes it needs battens, or a particular type of cladding might need battens at a different spacing to your studs. You'll notice that this is all of a sudden it has battens that are actually running behind the wainscot cladding up to the height of the brick, and the same would happen for a clad wall. And we can have those horizontal or vertical. So if I said we're going to have a vertical batten, I'd probably need to go through and change my finishes to a different type of finish, maybe let's say WeatherTex. See if I get the right cladding here, and maybe not Rubik's. There we go. That one there would actually need a vertical batten because it goes the other way. So I'm going to choose that, and right, and you'll notice that now my battens are vertical and are lining up with my studs, so we could actually fix that product too. Right, and there's my battens. Obviously, when you cut a window through, it's going to cut your battens as well. Just one more level of detail that is required to associate costs to a wall. Okay, what else was there, Em?
So we've got a lot more customization in the framing side of the walls.
Yep,
so,
like what?
So you can add in, so you can change your headers and footer timber or lumber types.
Okay, so basically a lot of you requested that you might want to use a treated bottom plate or different types inside of a wall instead of being bound by just what was inside of the tools. So I'm just going to have a quick look through there, and what I'm looking through is walls.
Just edit wall?
Yep, so right click, edit wall. No, it's actually advanced framing options, and I can add bracings, junctions, generate, but I think there's actually something else. Advanced framing options, and you'll notice I can change whether it be a California corner. I can change the different types of things. I can overwrite my plates, and maybe, for instance, what size timber did I use here? 9035. Obviously, if yours is imperial, you can change that as well. So I'm going to go down to, and I'm going to change the type of 90 by 35 I'm going to use. So H3 would be, say, a ground treated top plate, and I'm going to use I don't know, something different on the bottom plate. I'm going to use a larger bottom plate. Right, and I'm going to go submit. And essentially what it did is it changed the lumber behind the wall there. Let's just turn that layer off. Wood frame, there we go. Right. And you can now see that I have a larger bottom plate and a different size top plate according to what it was that was chosen. Obviously you probably wouldn't choose that, it should have sat flat, but you can change those over here as well. What else have we got, Em?
We can now, so as you said, you've got your California corners, but you've also got some other features for the walls there, including junctions.
Yep, so what I might do is I might just quickly draw a couple of walls so we can show different frame types and heights. So let's have a quick look here. Let's just draw in a corner here. Right, and it's probably a good idea at this stage to actually get our scenes created just so we can easily flip between frame and so on. So I'm just going to go submit. You'll notice that I have none. And my corner type here is a typical 3-stud corner. Right, I can actually go and change these. Walls, junctions, advanced framing options, junctions. I can insert a junction, but I actually want to change the junction type, which I've got over here. And I actually want to go in here and go California corner, say. So I can hit drop down California corner, and I'm going to change this back to none. Go submit and we'll see what happens. Right, California corner. The reason why they do that in America or in colder climates is basically so they get insulation right behind the wall, so they get a continuous barrier of insulation. And essentially that's what that has done there. You obviously are not going to want trimmers. If you're in that state, you would obviously turn your trimmers or your nogging off or blocking off. What else do we have there? Bracing.
Yep, you can add in bracing.
Yep, so if we said, okay, right click, walls, walls, bracing, insert bracing. You can choose the bracing type, whether it be metal cross bracing or, particular type of bracing, sheet bracing. whatever it is, and you can basically add that bracing to a wall. Notice it's drawn in there. You can also have symbols on the ground there for you. What else we got, Em?
You can add in some nogging too. You can add in your own custom nogging now to the walls.
That's already in there. Let's have a look in the right click menu in case we missed something. Right click, walls, junction. Okay, insert a junction. Okay, so a junction is basically where a wall would join at a T intersection. You can choose different types of junctions, blocking, ladder blocking, and so on. So standard junction, I'm going to say that I want that junction to be from here to here. And basically it's added the right amount of studs in there for you. If you actually wanted to use ladder blocking instead, ladder blocking, and we'll do that, say, between here and here. Right, I now have ladder blocking. If I look at it in my structural mode, you can see that now I've got something to fit my internal linings to there. So, yep, very helpful. What else we got? Okay, retain values. That's a really good thing, actually. So that's something that may have frustrated people in the past. So for instance, you've drawn up a whole house that's got different edge beams, it's got a whole heap of different things. So one could be a gable, one could be a sloping roof, and so on. Let's just quickly see if we can emulate that. Let's quickly draw a house up here. Shift here, and this wall here is going to have less of a step down. So say walls, edit wall. And you'll find that you've done this before, and it was a real pain in the backside because you had to go through walls one by one to change the material. I'm going to go here and I'm going to change my wall to a gable, and I'm just going to go, and I'll actually change the overrides as well, and we'll make it so it's got 0 step down, and we'll make it a 250. You can go submit. Right, now I've gone right click walls, select connector walls, select connector walls, right, and I'm going to go right click again, I'm going to go walls, and you'll notice that it's got edit wall and retain values. What this basically does, it enables you to say, well, I either want to keep all of my drop downs or I want to keep everything, and you can hover over, you'll have images in here. So you can see whether I want to retain rake walls, and I might say, well, you know what, I don't. But if you do, you can simply go submit, and it's going to give you the option to now go and change your material. Right, so inside of my wall tool, I'm going to change, say, my bricks. Material, selections and finishes. And I'm going to change my bricks to something different. Submit. Right, it retained all the values and all of everything behind the wall. That's a huge time saver. You'd know what I'm talking about if you've ever come across that before, guys. Anything else?
That pretty much covers the wall tool, and we'll get into the trim a little bit later down, pretty soon actually.
Okay, all right. You'll notice that I got a slight bit of lag. This model had been messed and pulled from pillar to post. Basically, inside of this model here, we have the Purge tool, but you actually notice you can also get rid of temporary files. Temporary files will actually take all of that lag out of my model and take anything out. So temporary files have been deleted to optimize SketchUp. Please save and reopen your model to see the benefits. Pretty self-explanatory. Save, reopen, and away you go. Okay, so we just jumped into a blank model, nothing in it. What are we going to do?
We're going to have a look at the wall trim.
Okay, so we'll open up the wall tool. I'm going to use a keyboard shortcut for that. And wall trim, tell us what wall trim does.
So we're going to have, that includes all your cornice and your skirting and quad as well, which is on the outside. But,
okay, well they don't call it cornice and skirting in all places, so sometimes they call it baseboard in the States, and crown moulding and a whole heap of different things. What we're going to do is we're just going to draw up a wall for you, and we're going to put some internal trim around. So I'm going to put skirting or baseboard around the internal. I can choose a size that I want to do. I can choose an offset. So for instance, when you've got a wall and you've got baseboard or skirting, you might want to lift it up for your flooring or so on. There's a whole heap of different things you can see in here. Right, and we can, if you had say a gable roof and you wanted to lower your cornice down because you had a full ceiling, all of those type of things you can now be done. Cover mold or cornice, and I'm just going to go internal here, and I'll just quickly draw up probably just a square model. I'm going to go to 2D mode here. Alright, so I'm looking top down, and very simple house there. right? You'll notice that I'm not actually seeing that, because and there's a reason for this, is that these didn't get turned on in this stage. So if I want to put internal walls, they'd get in my way. However, if I went to see all, it turns everything on for me. And see all is a real benefit in a lot of things. So for instance, if you've got a project that you've started to
make scheduling
and so on,
and layers. If you've got all those things and some things are turned off in some places, it can get really muddled. So
you go, what's going on? I don't know. Well, basically, see all is going to do that for you. It also allows you to do this. But if you go back to 2D mode, it's also going to drop them off for you. So now you can see that I can actually go and do my internal walls. If you were using levels at the same time, and here's a common problem, if I always turn my levels on here and actually created a 0, 0 ground floor wall, this is a workflow thing, we're going to start it at 0, and the height of the wall is going to be 2400, say, which is 8 foot, and I saved it. If I wanted to draw on this level, I go active, and I would go and choose a wall type, which I've still got my wall tool open there, so I just go back here and go internal wall here on my active level, and I'm going to start from here. Now this is something that was really a bit of a pain in the backside, right? That's pretty cool. That's a big time saver. Whether you're drawing in 2D mode or in 3D mode, you can now basically draw your walls into the right height without having to zoom all the way in here and accidentally bumping the bottom plate, right? Go to see all. You'll notice that I only have trim on one side of each model.
You can change that though. You can have it show up on both sides.
Correct. Yep, you can have it on both sides. No problems at all. Right. Okay, so what else do you want me to show there? Windows on several walls?
Yeah.
Right, so we would have known here that if I went right click, walls, and I wanted to say add a window.
Or a door.
Basically, you didn't want to have to close this down and open it back up again. Right, so what we can do is we can draw, say, 2 windows here. Now moving to the next wall, if I push shift, what it's going to do, I don't have to go and reopen anything. I can go and choose a different window type, and basically I can go and start putting in more windows as I go. Now, some of you beta testers would have known that was there, however, a lot of you wouldn't have, and basically it's all about speed, improving the way that we do things. We have that there. What else have we got, Em?
We can have a quick look at what the layout tool will do.
Okay, the layout tool. I'm going to go back into my 2D mode here. Turn that off. 2D mode. Right, and I actually drew that way outside of here. So the 2D mode actually gave me an A3 drawing sheet. I'm going to move this inside of our drawing sheet here, because this would be what we would see in layout. Right, maybe I should put a roof on it, I guess.
Yeah, just draw it.
Right, okay, walls, generate roof from walls. And essentially what's going to happen here, move my dialog back up to where it should be, go submit. Here we have a roof, and I'm going to need to create some scenes. However, you might forget, you don't even know what scenes are, whatever. I'm going to click this tool here. It says there are no scenes created. Would you like to continue? Yes, I would. So what it's going to do, before you can actually get this to go into layout and set up your paper sizes, it's actually going to create the scenes for me. So now I can see I've got a floor plan there. You can see my floor plan. And I should also have sections and elevations for us as well.
Yeah. Right. And basically what's next, we'll head over to the layout tool icon.
Yep, layout tool, asking if I want to see a tutorial. I don't. No. And now it's giving me the option to choose some things that are actually going to be what's on the paper that we would submit to authorities or whatever. I'm going to choose A3 because it's only a small project. If you already have your own layout templates, you can use those, or you can use ours. So I'm going to leave that as default. Leader lines will be for dimensions. Display dimension units, yes or no. I'm going to say no. Usually on your plan you would usually say what dimensions it's in.
And that's for our auto dimensioning feature. So that's how that all works.
That's correct. That's right. Yep. And you can basically go through and you can choose what you want on each plan. So I might say, well, site plan for this one here, I want to add a new page, and I might say on my second page I want to have a floor plan, and actually I might even want to have several different viewports on that page. So I might say, well, I'm going to have 2 viewports in this page, therefore it's added another viewport here. Inside of this viewport I can choose which one I want to use. So we might say elevation 2. So I've got a floor plan and an elevation on one, and basically I can go submit. Check out the tutorials, guys. There's a lot in it. You can auto dimension the page, you can do you can rotate the views. Super tool, especially if you've just been using SketchUp for communicating with clients.
Means you can keep everything in the one tool inside of SketchUp and PlusSpec and do your drafting with layout.
That's right. Go submit, and basically it'll ask you, need to save the current SketchUp model. I hadn't saved it, so you go File, Save, and away you go. Check out the tutorials on it, guys. It's a cool tool. What else we got in? I think we kind of wrapped it up almost, haven't we?
Yeah.
All right, so what's the deal? What happens from here? How do existing PlusSpec users move forwards?
So you guys can go and check your emails, and there's going to be some information there on how you can upgrade if you're interested in having a look at the new features.
You don't have to upgrade. Look, if you're happy with the existing version of PlusSpec, fine. This has got a lot of benefits in there that I think will really help you out. However,
it has a lot of new things, and if it's not really what you need, then stick with what you got.
That's all cool. We do appreciate your feedback, and
if you've got questions or anything you would like to say, leave them in the comments below. There should also be a chat running on the right. So
that's correct. And also, and thanks again, guys. We really do appreciate all your support throughout the years. And if you haven't received that email yet, you'll get it in the next couple of days.
There will be some very good special deals in there for you as a thank you for all of your support.
Yeah, you'll see that as it comes through. Thanks, guys. Take it easy.
Bye.